backstory on like the progression of how I made this demo, and so, like just a couple things that I'm gonna go through. Then I'm gonna do the demo, and then I'll review it and I'll take notes. So I would say until I was at like $50,000-$60,000 in sales, I literally did the demo from the manual. Which the manual I started with was the old Northeast region manual, which has, it's like everything is in the same order and it has the majority of the same stuff, but it, like the verbiage is different. So like we compared to Henkel's instead of Wusthof, and the close was a little different. The drop down was definitely a lot different. And until I was at like $50,000 in sales or so, I used that, and then I started like adding or tweaking little things here and there, and then that's how I made this demo. So like it has a power open, it doesn't do disadvantages. I don't show every piece in the homemaker. It closes on the basic set, the signature set, the complete set. There's like a few other things like the 4 promises, that type of stuff. And at first as a manager, my first summer, I used like the regular manual, and then I decided to make my own manual, which was a terrible idea. And because I typed it in all caps, as you could see, and at the time, all caps meant that it took off spell check. And I have the writing level of like a 4th grader with like two thumbs and no other fingers. So yeah, it was terrible. It was not good. So I had somebody had to rewrite everything, and I wrote like a 91-page manual, and literally we used it. And what happened was I realized that there's certain parts of the training manual that are more important from the perspective of a new rep needing to learn them than a new rep needing to be able to present them on every demo, right? So being able to go through all of the names and uses is really important, because otherwise it's really hard to drop down. Or if somebody asks you, oh, well, what would I use this piece for? Or I don't think I would use this piece. You don't necessarily have the confidence to explain to them what they would use it for. And that's obviously not good, right? So I don't think you need to go through every piece on every single demo, but I do know that you need to be able to explain every piece on every demo. I also, so personally, I didn't do the disadvantage of common knives, but it's important to understand that, so that if your customer doesn't understand, why wooden handles aren't great or whatever, you can educate them, and you're still confident in the value of Cutco, right? So I was looking at this earlier, and this is like a simplified version of the manual that I made, and there's definitely stuff that I need to add to it. Like it doesn't have. Do you still have the one I gave you the other day? So I made a couple quick tweaks so you could have both. It doesn't have rapport, which obviously rapport is super important. And I'll kind of hit on that. And it doesn't have, actually I might have added in use super shears. Yeah, shows super shears, but I didn't script out the whole super shear thing. So there's definitely things that I need to tweak to this, but this is just the general skeleton of the demo. And Frederick, stop. Could you do me a favor? Actually, could you just put the popcorn in the kitchen? Otherwise, he's gonna bark at us the entire time, and I'm gonna throw him in the dumpster. So thank you. I'm sorry. So he's the reason we canonize things. All right. So this is what I'm gonna do. I'm going to do a demo for you guys for the most part. Like I said, I haven't really done this demo in 5 years, so I'm going to do the demo for you guys for the most part. While I'm doing it, jot down any questions or comments or things that you want to discuss, and we'll go through them at the end. All right. So I'm gonna wait till Sarah gets back. But so obviously the first thing that I went through on my demos, and I was just saying this to Austin, is so he was asking me about about me page. And personally, I don't think you need an About Me page. I think that that's the part where you have your manual closed and you're having a conversation with your customers, right? So for me, I always liked I actually didn't write on this. So for me, I always, in terms of getting to know them, my favorite question to ask a customer to start is I would compliment them. I'd find something that I liked. It could be their neighborhood. It could be a tree, it could be a garden, it could be something. I think of random houses, and I think of random things. Like, I forget who it was, but like, I don't know if you've ever seen anyone who had like a really cool garage door, right? Like wooden garage door, like that type of stuff. Like I would pick out something that I liked. It could be furniture, it could be art, it could be whatever. I'd be like, hey, like you guys have a beautiful home. This is a really cool neighborhood, whatever. How long have you guys lived here, right? So that was my like first question that I asked every person. And I would say that a couple reasons for that are, one is, so this is like the ulterior motive, and this wasn't necessarily my main reason, but obviously if you know how so long someone's lived there, you also know where they've lived and you could get referrals from multiple places, right? So I told a story of a guy who I did a demo for. His name was Courtney, I forget that, Christina and Courtney Whitney. They moved to Mountain Lakes from Essex Fells. So at the end, I got like 20 Mountain Lakes recs and I got like 20 Essex Fells recs, right? But the other reason is because I feel like when you know where someone's like lived, it's so easy to like, that's like, they tell you their story kind of. It's like, oh, we lived here for a few years. This is actually the house that I grew up in. My husband and I bought it from our parents and, you know, blah, blah, blah. And that's like a really cool story in my opinion, right? And then there were certain people that I sat down with, like Holly Ryan Schmidt, who lived in Basking Ridge, who had moved there 4 years before. They moved there from Iowa. And we talked about, like, they both met at college at University of Iowa. We talked about, like, the Big Ten and like, I was West Virginia. I'm a West Virginia fan, so we talked about, like, Big 12 football. And, like, we just had, like, a really long, like, meaningful conversation, right? So to me, I always like to ask people, like, how long have you lived here, right? And to me, that was a really, like, great way to get to know somebody. So then I always said, like, cool, well, I always like to kind of start off and introduce myself, which is literally how I start all my interviews and how I start training. And I always just say, you know, my name is Owen. This is where I grew up. This is where I go to school. When I was a student, where I go to school. These are the things I'm interested in. And then I always like to tell them how I heard about the job, which is literally how I start my interviews and training. I heard about the job from my friend Rob. It sounded crazy. And then I kind of explained to them the realizations that I had and what I wanted to get from the position. Right, so like at first it sounded crazy when he told me about it. I thought I had to get like a trench coat and be like, "You want to buy my knives?" But what I realized is like that sales is just a really good experience, and it gives me the opportunity to build, you know, skill sets that I'll take with me for the rest of my life. You know, from communication to time management, goal setting, planning, networking. Right, just building relationships with people. It gave me the opportunity to earn incentive-based income instead of doing what everyone else is doing. And Rob's actually won multiple scholarships. So there's so many cool opportunities the company has. I've actually been able to win trips to these places, or, you know, I just won a trip to the Bahamas, right? And right now, so I always shared what I was excited about and what I was working towards, right? So right now I'm actually working towards becoming an assistant manager or becoming more of a leader in my office, setting myself apart. And there's actually a scholarship program where, because the company works with a ton of students, the company actually has a scholarship which is incredibly hard to win. Over the course of the year, there's like tens of thousands of students that compete for it, and it's the top 50 reps in the summer and the top 25 in the spring and fall. And basically, the company matches anywhere from 30 to 50% of what they sell, depending on what place a little bit more. And it's like super hard to win, but my goal is just to work as hard as I can, because I might not win it, but I don't want to be the reason I lose it. Right, so every demo gets me closer to that goal, you know, because obviously every demo that I do, I'm getting better. You know, everyone has just been so awesome, has been referring me to other people that might be nice enough to sit down with me. A lot of the times people do see things that they're interested in, but my number one goal is just for you to be comfortable and confident enough with me where you want me to see all your friends. So I've actually been doing this for a while now, and I've seen a ton of awesome people. So if you look, I have a customer list, right? So my customer list is, if you go on Vector Connect, you can download your customer list, and it's in like an Excel file. I basically just have first name, last name, and the town that they're in, and I have it sorted by town so that wherever I am, I can show them that town or other like near towns that correlate to that, and I can ask them who they know that I've seen, right? So I flip through a ton of people that I've seen. I'm just like, yeah, everyone's been awesome. You know, everyone's been just like super cool, and I've met so many awesome people. And I always like to ask them who they knew that I saw, so that, because these are my customers, right? So these aren't people that I like just sat down with. These are people that bought from me. And one thing that I got very good at as a representative, I got good at on the phones, I got good on the demo, is name dropping, right? So when I was going through the sets, for example, I like to name drop what their friends had, right? So I would be like, who do you know, blah, blah, blah. Cool, well, so the way that I always started was I would start with the Power Open. So the Power Open is a price comparison at the beginning. I'll explain this a little bit later. I'm not going to get into it right now. So chances are you don't price cutlery for fun. Have you ever heard of Henkel's? All right, well, Henkel's is actually the world's most popular set of knives. Cutco's the most popular set of knives in the United States. And most people don't know this, but Henkel's actually has 10 different grades. And only their top 2 are actually made by them in Germany. And the rest are outsourced to other companies in China, Japan, or Spain. And they kind of just put their name on it and mark up the price. So you could get a set of Henkel's for like $6,000, or you could get a set for like $400. And obviously, $6,000 seems a little ridiculous, but how much can it cost to remodel a kitchen, right? So you probably remember me saying this in training, most of you, right? So to remodel a kitchen, it could cost tens, sometimes hundreds of thousands of dollars, and months at a time. And the thing that never made any sense to me was somebody going out and investing that type of time and money into their kitchen and buying a crappy set of knives, throwing on the counter, and it looks terrible, right? They hate it every time they use it. They're replacing it every couple of years, right? Or how much does it cost for like good flatware in China, right? It could be hundreds to over $1,000 a place setting. And the funny thing is, pretty much everyone I sit down with has that, and they use it like every couple of years. They're waiting for the president or the pope to come over. And it doesn't make much sense to invest in a thing that you're rarely going to use and then skimp on the thing you're going to use every single day. So yeah, it definitely isn't it definitely is a little, expensive. It definitely is a lot of money, but it's an investment, right? Like it looks better on the counter. It's a lot more enjoyable. It just changes the experience of cooking. And honestly, if I didn't know about Cutco and I wanted to get a good set of knives, I would probably get Wusthof. Wusthof is like really good stuff. Have you ever heard of them? Well, it's a really good set of knives. Obviously, there are like some differences. One of the things that I highlighted are none of these knives are actually dishwasher safe, and you need to use a honing steel pretty like regularly when you're using these. And a lot of people actually don't know this, but a honing steel is not a sharpener. It's just to maintain the edge's integrity. You're supposed to use it pretty much every time you use the knives. You're supposed to sharpen them a couple times a week. They suggest you replace them every like 8 to 10 years. And if you look, this is their warranty. It's the same warranty and like the way that you have to maintain these are pretty much the same way you have to maintain Henkel's or any of the other like high quality brands. But the warranty is just a limited warranty against manufactured defect, which means like if you were to use the knives even for just a couple months and you broke a tip off, unless you could prove it was broken through manufactured defect, you'd have to go out and replace it yourself, right? So the company that I work for is Cutco, right? We've been around since 1949, so that's 70 years. Our factory is actually in upstate New York in a little town called Owen. And honestly, I love that because not many things are made in the United States anymore, right? And the factory employing over 1,000 people, what it does for that community, I've actually been fortunate enough to go up and see, and like the people are so grateful. And Cutco's actually, we have over 19 million referred customers. So fortunately, we're not going door to door with trench coats. We're only allowed to see people that we've been recommended to because we're part of the Direct Selling Association and the Better Business Bureau, which just ensure honest and ethical business practices. So we just work off a referral basis. And Cutco's actually a proud producer of many K-bar knives used by both our military and police forces nationwide. And before I show the product, I always like to make 4 promises real quick. So the first is, you're gonna love Cutco. Like Cutco is not cheap, it's not a hunk of junk, it's not something you're gonna replace in a couple of years. It's literally something you're going to pass down to your kids one day. The second thing is I'm gonna ask you if you'd like to get something today, but there's no obligation. Like I wouldn't want you to get it just because I was here. I'd want you to get it because you realize like, this is something I'm gonna use every day for the rest of my life. The third is I'm gonna ask you for anyone that you know that might be nice enough to sit down with me. That's really the most important part of my job. If everyone just bought from me and didn't recommend me to anyone, I would just run out of people to see. So at the end, I'm gonna ask you for anyone that you know that might just be nice enough to sit down with me. And then the last part is I'm gonna try my hardest to impress you with my presentation, but I'm not perfect. So if you have any tips or suggestions or anything like that, totally just let me know, and that would really help me out, all right? Cool. So these are the first product that I'm going to show you. So these are the Super Shears. They're actually the only pair of shears that are made in the United States today, but they are by far the sweetest pair of shears made in the United States. Are you a wine drinker, Miss Jones?
Yeah.
Yeah, I got you. I'm going to make you a little corkscrew. So the shears are redunculous, right? And that's for you. Get it? No, not yet. So if you look, they're actually not sharp at all. They just match up so tightly, and we use the highest grade steel. So you could use them in the kitchen. You could, disjoint a chicken. You could use it to cut off the cloves of broccoli. You could use it for herbs. But they actually come apart, and they're dishwasher safe. So you could use that in the garden or garage, and they're awesome. To me, like a good pair of shears in the kitchen is literally a game changer. So I'm going to show you why Cutco is awesome. All right, so in terms of handing them a knife for the features and benefits. So the next thing I go through is the features and benefits. So I usually handed them a trimmer at this point, and typically it depends. Like if it was just the wife, I would hand them the pearl trimmer. If the husband was there too, and my goal was for every person to have a knife. Like I feel like too many reps leave someone out if they're doing a demo for multiple people and just talk to the wife. My goal was for every person to be included. So like if I'm doing a demo for the husband and the wife, I'm going to let the husband typically do the rope test and the wife do the leather test, and then she'll do like the leather test in the air, and then I'll have him do the leather test on the cutting board. Does that make sense? So I'm like, cool, let me show you why Cutco is awesome, and I would give her trimmer, and I'd be like, so if you were to like hold that the way you would cut with it, what do you notice?
The handle.
It's just comfortable, right? So it's actually, our design is a little more expensive, but it's worth it because it's actually the only design backed by the American Arthritis Foundation. So when you're old, you can still cut up your food. It's actually made by the same guy that designed the seats in Porsches. I said over 700 pairs of hands to fit righties, lefties, big hands, small hands. Your thumb and forefinger lock into place, you're more safety and control. And it's just more comfortable and it reduces hand fatigue, right? So the material for the handle is more expensive than like wood or plastic, but it's worth it because it's actually called thermal resin. It's the material they use for bowling balls and professional football helmets. It's super durable, it's heat resistant up to 350 degrees. It's dishwasher detergent safe. And so a little note that I would make next to that is where it says dishwasher detergent safe. Frederick, stop. Frederick, how did he even get that?
I don't know. He brought it in here.
So it's dishwasher detergent safe. So I always say I really don't mind cooking, but I hate cleaning. So that was like one of my favorite lines to say. So I really don't mind cooking, but I hate cleaning, right? So after where it says dishwasher detergent safe, I would add that. So I really don't mind cooking, but I hate cleaning. So being able to throw in the dishwasher just makes life so much easier. So the steel that we use is high carbon surgical stainless. It's like a more expensive steel to use, but it's worth it because it's the best of both worlds. It's high carbon to stay sharp longer for the edge retention, but it's surgical stainless for the rusting, pitting, and corroding, right? So it's the best of both worlds. And if you notice, there's full tang, which the tang is how far the steel goes in the handle, right? And triple, there's 3 rivets, which obviously make it more expensive, but the tang obviously going all the way through means it's not just gonna break off, right? And nickel silver alloy is actually the same material that they use for rivets that hold together a jet engine. So they're pretty sturdy. And let's do a cutting test real quick. So we use rope because it's tough and fibrous like a meat or a vegetable, but it's not gonna dull or damage your knife. And we're gonna start with your straight edge. So I'm not gonna do like the whole cutting test, but a couple things that I would say for it are, so make sure that the tests are consistent every time, right? So every single time, I'm always like, cool, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna start at the back of the blade and I put it down and hold it until I'm done, right? We're gonna start at the back of the blade, we're gonna see how many full strokes it takes to cut through, right? So then I wait until he fully understands, and then I'll hold the other side. And while he's cutting through, I'll be like, cool. And usually, if it's not like terrible, I'm like, cool, not too bad, right? So I like to say not too bad because I want them to think that ours isn't going to be that much better. Frederick, stop! You're being an asshole. You're embarrassing everyone. This is. He's like, what is this? So then you do the straight edge, serrated edge, and R edge, and so to me, so with R knife, if you have a hardy slicer, that's what you're going to use to cut the rope. So this is something that a lot of people don't do a good job at building value, and they don't do a good job at explaining the edge to their customers. Right, so like our edge is not a serrated edge, right? So the reason that serrated edges aren't that great. So if you look at this picture, the top one, the bottom one is serrated edge, and a serrated edge is kind of like, and this is because I didn't do the disadvantage page. I need to explain it here, right? On a serrated edge, the reason it's kind of like a saw, right? So what cuts on a serrated edge are the pointy parts. And the reason that's not so great is because every time they're hitting a hard surface, like a plate or a cutting board, it's gradually dulling, and then it starts to rip and tear at food, and it can never be resharpened. So it kind of has like a shelf life, and once it dulls, you have to throw it away and get a new one. And the way that our edge works is instead of the pointy parts cutting, there's 3 straight edges on the inside, right? So because they are straight edges, obviously they're cutting that cleanly. But because it has 3 times the cutting surface, it cuts down, left, and right all at the same time. So it actually cuts as clean as a straight edge, as quicker than a serrated edge. The tip's just protected from dulling, so it actually stays sharp longer than any other knife. And the coolest part about it is it's actually resharpenable. So everything Cutco makes is actually designed to last forever. So we put our money where our mouth is, and we have something called a forever guarantee, right? So the forever guarantee actually has a few parts to it. The first part is forever performance. And that just means if anything ever happened to any of your knives or anything you owned that had Cutco's name on it, you would send it back and you get a brand new one for free, right? So if you were, if there were hard waters, Frederick, stop! Grab.
Time out.
You're being an asshole.
Oh.
Very anxious. Okay, we can do better.
I wonder how long he's been here today.
Probably all fucking day.
All day.
Go Fred.
He lives here more than he lives at his
You know
actual
what they
house.
should get? They should get
Did you call him
machine
Fred?
that
We
goes,
never
like,
call
you
him
can
Fred.
run back and forth on the fence.
What's a Scooby Doo?
I mean,
Fred and Wilma.
So if anything ever happened, you send it back, you get a brand new one for free, right? So if there were hard water stains, if it fell through the dishwasher, if you put down on the stove by accident, right? Whatever. If anything ever happened, you get a brand new one for free, right? So Cutco would be the last set of knives you'd ever buy, right? The second part's forever sharpness. Obviously, like every knife dulls eventually. They are made out of steel. Cutco takes longer to dull than than any other knife. But when it, and I felt like you were about to say something close enough. So it takes longer to dull than any other knife. So there are 2 options. You could either send it to the factory and sharpen and polish it for free, or you call me and I come over and I sharpen it in the house for free, right? So, and something that I would add to this is I always like to say, like, so Cutco is not a purchase, right?
After forever sharpness.
Yeah. So Cutco, it isn't a purchase, right? Like a purchase is a sandwich, right? Like you purchase a sandwich, you eat the sandwich, and then you get no value out of that sandwich, right? Cutco's an investment, right? Not only is it the only product that you would literally buy once, you would use every day, you never have to replace, and you pass on to your kids one day. It's probably the only thing that you could get for your kitchen that only goes up in value. Right? And we also have a 15 business day, so 3-week unconditional money back guarantee, which means you could try out a set or any specific pieces. And if you aren't satisfied for literally any reason, you could send the whole thing or any specific pieces back and get just a refund on the pieces that you aren't in love with, right? And I actually have a personal guarantee where I'm the one representing the company, right? I'm the one representing the company, and if you weren't in love with it, if you weren't fully satisfied, I wouldn't want you to have to spend any more of your time. So I would pick it up, I would send it back for you, and I would make sure that that process gets done. So we have three main kitchen sets, right? We have our basic set, which is designed by a home economist to do everything in the kitchen with the fewest amount of tools. It's for people who have to cook, just the stuff you have to have. Right? We have our signature set, which is our most popular set. It's all the stuff that you have to have with the stuff that you love to have, like the perfect family set. It's our most popular. I call it the whatever town, right? And while I'm going through the sets, I like to name drop the people that own the sets that they know. Whether I sold it to them or they had it when I got there, right? So this is this, so our basic set, blah, blah, blah. This is this set Jenny Hochberg has, right? This is our signature set. I joke around, called the Short Hill set because everyone has it, right? This is the set Karen Kahn, Joe Parker, Susan Guzman, and I would name drop everyone that owns it, right? And then the last set is our complete set. It is for people who love to cook or entertain often. So it just means you never have to buy another knife. It's the only set that comes with a full 12 place settings of either table or steak knives. And I'm sure it looks like a big set to you, but the base of the block is just the size of a piece of paper. And the thing that I like to compare knives to are shoes, right? So each of them are designed with specific uses in mind. So I'm sure Austin, I'm sure you probably have a couple pairs of snow boots, right?
Yeah.
And how often do you use your snow boots?
In the winter.
Right. So there's probably years where there are definitely years where it snows all the time and you pull them out, for half the year you feel like you're pulling them out. And then there's certain years where it barely snows and you don't even really use them, right? But when you need them, you're really glad that you have them.
Of course, yeah.
Right. So obviously your snow boots are designed to protect you and to protect your other shoes, right? So they're designed to protect you because they have better traction, so you're not sliding all over the place. And they're there to protect your other shoes because they're weather resistant and durable, so you're not beating your other shoes up in those conditions, right?
Yeah.
And even though you're not using them all the time, when you need them, you're really glad that you have them, right? And there's certain knives like that. You'd be surprised how many homes I go into where the tip of knives are broken off from trying to separate frozen food or disjointed chicken or cut through bone, right? And then there's some that are your sneakers, right? Where that you might wear them multiple times a week, right? And that's the chef's knife, the paring knife, the utility knives, that type of stuff. And then there's certain shoes that I'm sure you were I don't know what I'm gonna wear these with, but I'm gonna look and feel damn good when I wear them. It's funny because the majority of the people I sit down with try our signature or complete set because they know that there's the 15-day trial. And if they weren't gonna use any of these pieces, they could just send those pieces back. But more times than not, what people find is the reason that they never used those pieces before is just because they never had them, right? And a lot of the times what they find is those are the pieces that they wouldn't want to live without from that point forward because they change the experience of cooking and they just make it way more fun and the one more enjoyable and the ones they wouldn't want to live without. So I'm not going to bore you with all the basics, but I'll show you some of the cool highlights, right? So the way that I did this is I would keep it closed for the pieces that are in the basic set, and then I would open it when we go to the signature pieces, and then open it with the complete set pieces, right? Mm-hmm. So the first is the spatula spreader. It's the 60-second sandwich maker. It's mom's best friend. You can make a peanut butter and jelly and cut with it. You can cut a bagel and butter it. You can ice a cake. You can cut and serve lasagna. If you look in the blade, you'll see Cutco's next customer. Ooh, she's buying, right? So the second is the carving set, right? So for the carving set, I'm not gonna pull every piece out, but the carving set. So I always like to ask, do you guys ever entertain, right? Well, that's the most frustrating time not to have the right tool for the job is when you have a large turkey or roast or something like that, right? It brings back the traditional feel of carving. And then it has the stronger fork, which obviously you could use the fork in this for when you're grilling also. Something you're not going to use every day, but when you need it, you're going to be so grateful that you have it, right? Then the third one is a hearty slicer, which is like the man's knife. It's the barbecue or the raw meat knife. So who does the majority of the grilling in your house? And a lot of the times the wife would say the husband, and I would always say he's gonna absolutely love this one, right? So, and actually I'll ask that question in a second. So it's thicker blade for cutting through like ribs, pepperoni stick, cheese block. We joke around and call it the man's knife because it's usually the husband's favorite knife. Like every time I do the demo and they're there, like they just like hold it the whole time, right? The next one's the Petite Santoku, which is the lady's knife. It's the delicate chopping and dicing knife. It's for finer chopping. It's just a better size for most people. So obviously you need to have a full-size chef's knife for certain things in the kitchen, but there are a lot of things in the kitchen that you chop up that you don't need a full-size chef's knife for. A lot of people feel that this is just a better size for them for those things. And because Cutco's dishwasher safe, if the chef's knife's ever in the dishwasher, you still have a tool to chop with, or if someone was cutting with you, you both would have a tool to chop at the same time, right? The next one is the cheese knife. Which is also, we call it the dense food knife. It's our most popular knife. It's a micro version of our edge, so it's great through cutting through anything soft like a brie or fresh mozzarella. But you know when you cut through like a potato and you get like halfway down, you need to put that extra like pressure in? That's because of the surface area in the knife. So when you have the surface area, it creates kind of like a vacuum, like a seal. And when you put the holes in the side, it eliminates that, it glides through and things don't stick through, like to the side of it. So it's great for dense foods like cucumbers, zucchini, avocado, potatoes, fresh fruits and veggies, obviously cheeses. You could actually use the back part of it as a bottle opener. So it's just an awesome piece. And then, so I like to show the 4-inch paring knife because I feel like everyone loves, or a lot of people use paring knives all of the time, and a lot of them use it for the wrong things, right? And so this is actually something that Cutco came out with because so many customers requested. So it gives people the ability to cut with a smaller knife on the cutting board, and the smaller paring knife, like the 2 3/4 inch, you can't really chop with it because the blade is so small. You just use it in the air, and this gives just a little more utility. Plus, like I said, if one's dirty or whatever, you still have a tool to pair with. And then the last thing is the table knives. So personally, what I like to do is I would always take a steak knife, I would have a traditional one, a pearl one, and a stainless table knife. And I always like to say, Sean's like, out of these 4 options, which do you find the most aesthetically pleasing, right? And whatever they picked is what we were going to use for the cutting test, right? So the way that I transition to the cutting test is I always like to say, so like this is their steak knife, right? So I'd be like, so Ms. Jones, I know you're like the resident knife fighter, right? You're just going to knife fights every weekend. It's getting ridiculous, right? You're gonna hurt somebody. But let's say you're going to a knife fight this weekend. Which one of these would you recommend?
I know the 3, and I know it's pretty sharp.
Yeah, but you would just stab them in the neck, right?
That's true.
Right? But if it's on your plate, shouldn't it be dead?
I think so.
Right? So what's the point of having a tip on a steak knife? Right?
I guess there is no point.
It just takes away the utility, right? Like you wouldn't butter bread or cut waffles. And you know how they say if you don't know how to cook a steak, it's a lot like leather? Well, I am not a very good cook, can I assure you? So what I would do is I would cut a piece of leather with the shears in front of them, right? So which is just building more utility in the shears. And I'd be like, well, I'm not a very good cook, so this is my steak, right? So
Oh, I want to put it in here.
I'll do it in there. Cool. Not too bad, right? So just put that down. Same thing. I feel like you actually went for my finger, right? Cool. So and then I would do it in the air, and then I would put a piece of leather on the cutting board and have them do it with theirs first, and then with ours, right? So the table knife's awesome. It has a rounded tip, but with the double D edge, which makes it like obviously safer for kids and that type of stuff. They're not going to poke themselves. But it's also the every meal knife. You can use it for breakfast, right? You can slice the toast or rolls or melons. You can use it for lunch. It's perfect for fruit, salads, and sandwiches. It's obviously great for dinners. You can use it for salads, eggplant parm, fruits for desserts, lemons, limes, kiwis. It's just so useful. And most customers get at least 2 table knives per family member, so they don't have to wash them after every meal. And I should have said that before, I guess. So actually, all 3 of our main sets, they come with a block, a sharpener, 3 cutting boards. Actually, I guess the basic set doesn't. And a knife guide. And they're actually heavily discounted, anywhere from 20 to 25%. So Cutco's a great investment because you'll always have a sharp knife. You'll always have the right tool for the task at hand. It's American made with the highest quality materials, which guarantee superior performance, durability, strength, and comfort. And not to mention the forever guarantee, which ensures you'll never have to spend money on replacement knives ever again. And so, like I was showing you earlier, so personally, the reason that my trifold was out was so that I could turn back to the price comparison at the beginning and have it next to it, right? So, like I was showing you earlier, there's a wide range of prices and quality available for knives. I doubt you go on the weekends and just price color for fun. And I'm sure you'd agree that you wouldn't compare Cutco to a cheap set of knives sold at a local bargain store for like $200. But I think it's crazy to compare it to like a similar set of Henkel's, which is like $900 a knife. And if I didn't know about Cutco and I wanted to get a good set of knives, I would get Wüsthof Icon Blackwood. It's really good stuff. It's a great set of knives imported from Germany. And this set is $3,000. I think it's $3,000. I need to update my list. But $3,435. But usually you can find it on sale for about $1,999.95. But even for that type of money, it's well worth it because of how long it lasts. But it's definitely an investment that looks good in the kitchen. It changes the experience of cooking. But obviously there are some major differences. So Cutco has the only handle backed by the American Arthritis Foundation. When you're old, you can still cut up your food. We have a higher grade material that we use for the handle and the steel, which means they're dishwasher safe. Like I said, I really don't mind cooking, but I hate cleaning. We have the resharpenable edge, which is the best of both worlds and is designed to last forever. We're made in the United States, but the 2 biggest differences between Cutco and Wüsthof are, one, when you buy Wüsthof, a lot of what you're paying for is how it gets to you, right? So they're made in Germany, they're sold to a distributor in Germany, who sells it to another distributor in the United States, who sells it to in Sonoma. And meanwhile, there's warehousing overhead markup, and they're shipping for like a 10 to 20 pound block of knives, right? So it actually costs, it should say 2 times as much to make a set of Cutco. So it actually costs 2 times as much to make a set of Cutco as it does to make a set of Wüsthof. And that's why we have to sell direct. If we were sold in stores, we wouldn't be able to use the higher grade materials. We wouldn't be able to stay domestic, and we certainly wouldn't have the guarantee, which is really the biggest difference between Cutco and Wüsthof. Honestly, the biggest difference between Cutco and Wüsthof isn't day one, right? There's only so sharp you're going to be able to make a knife. It's year 8 when they suggest you start looking to replace it, or year 10 when you probably should have already replaced it. If Cutco ever gets to that point, you just send it in or you call me and you get a knife back that is like the day that you got it. Cutco is literally something you're going to pass down to your kids one day. And obviously there are knife sets that range up to like $5,000 and no one has that. So, all right, so instead of this is where I actually did a cable analogy. I like to say right here is, so the thing I like to compare Cutco to is cable, right? When you moved in your house, you probably signed up for cable. And how much is cable a month, Sarah?
I have no idea.
$200.
Say, you could say 100, 150, 200, pick one.
200.
Cool, so $200 a month, right? That means that you're gonna spend $2,400 a year. Most people have the same cable provider for like 20 years, right? So that means you're gonna spend $48,000 on cable, right? And if the cable guy came to your house day one, was like, hey, you want cable? $48,000. You'd be like, you're crazy, get the hell out of here. But obviously, cable's an investment also, right? You're investing in the time you spend, the entertainment. If you're anything like my parents, being able to tell your kids to shut up and go watch TV when you just can't deal with them anymore, well, Cutco's an investment also, right? It's literally something you are going to buy once, you're gonna use every day, and you're never gonna replace. So one thing that we have is, obviously, most people don't have thousands of dollars laying around. So what we have is something called a 5-pay, where instead of paying for it all at once, just charges a debit or credit card 1/5 for 5 months. It makes it way more manageable. It's what everyone does. So the cool thing is, even though our complete set is actually 2 times as many pieces and costs 2 times as much to make, it's actually less than their suggested price. It's only 25. Actually, I didn't do a good job at this. I didn't do a good job at the transition. So our complete set. Yeah, I didn't do a good job at this all. So usually the way that I would do this, I feel like is different than this. But our complete set's 2 times as many pieces. It's actually just like pretty much this less than their suggested price. Our complete set, which comes with 12 table knives and all of our specialty knives, means you never have to get another knife, and it's only $26.29. But like I said, no one pays for it all at once, so it's just $564 a month on the 5-pay. Our signature set is actually 1.5 times the size of their basic set. It's actually a few $100s less than their sale price. The signature is our most popular set because it has all the pieces you have to have, as well as our most popular specialty pieces. Also comes with 10 of the table or steak knives, and it's just $19.14 a month, which is just $411. And our basic set is actually a couple extra pieces as their set. It's designed by home economists to do everything in your kitchen with the fewest amount of tools. The basic set comes with 8 of the table knives, and even though it's actually a couple extra pieces, it's almost half the price. It's just $12.73 paid in full, which is just $274 a month for 5 months. So it's just a little more than a cable bill for 5 months, and you never need to buy knives again. And with the complete set, I would actually be able to give you $300 of free stuff. So you can get like kitchen tools or gadgets for your kitchen. With the signature set, I'd be able to give you $200 of free stuff. And with the basic set, I'd be able to give you $100 of free stuff. So out of those 3 sets, which one do you think you would get the most value out of?
Probably the signature, yeah.
And so what I would do at that point is I would typically agree and validate what they're saying, right? So like if you were to say the signature, and I actually felt like you would get the most value out of the signature, I'd be like, yeah, personally, I don't think you need everything in the complete set. Obviously, you could always upgrade if you wanted, but it seemed like you loved those specialty pieces, that like the shears and like the cheese knife and that type of stuff. So I really think that the signature set would be perfect for you. So I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't ask you, would you like to try the signature and get blank? So my favorite way of closing, my favorite line was, so honestly, if you could swing the payments, I would totally suggest getting the signature set. And then I shut up.
Yeah. I use that.
So I have an objection. What they said, I just bought knives. So I don't know, maybe that's a good money.
So a lot of the times I feel like that objection would be way earlier. And I would handle that earlier. I'd be like, okay, how long have you had them? Right? Like, or how much, like, how do you like them? Like, I would figure out what value they put in them. And maybe I would do like a trade-in special where I were to say to them, like, let's say, so like if they just bought knives, like for the most part that means like the last couple years, right? So let's say they got like a few $100 set a couple years ago, I'd probably do a trade-in special where I was like, well, what how about this? So obviously you spend some money on these and you still see value in them. What if we did a trade-in special where if you traded those in, I could give you $200 off this set or whatever. Like the way that I usually did a trade-in special is I just said like, so if you were to have like a garage sale and you were to put a number on those, how much value do you think are still in those knives?
That's good.
Right. So
It's just like the way if a car would depreciate, obviously those knives aren't worth what they were when they bought them. So that's a good question to ask.
Right, and then a lot of the times they're like, I don't know, $100, and I'm like, well, how about this? I still want you to get value out of them. Obviously, like, what if we gave you $100 off? We did a trade-in, and that way you still got some value from those, but you were able to get that set that you would never have to replace again.
What's the numbers on making?
So, this is my stance is a lot of the times people don't say no. A lot of the times people give you an objection,
Yeah.
right?
So they say, you know, homemaker's way too much. I can't swing this, you said before.
So, I mean, a question that I would ask is like, okay, so just so I know, what is a number that you feel more comfortable spending today? But, what was that?
I was gonna say that is like the best question to ask.
So, but like, and there are situations like that, but yeah, I mean, that would be the question that I would ask.
Yeah. And if they were like, I'm not comfortable spending anything, what would you say?
I would ask them for referrals.
Cause think about that. If they don't want to spend any money, you're not gonna make them spend any
So
money.
you didn't do the classic drop down?
Well, I would do the classic drop down after that. But if I asked him, how much would you feel comfortable spending today, and he said absolutely nothing,
Oh, right.
Yeah.
I would be like, you know what? Then I don't want to waste any more of your time. Here's how you could really help me out.
Yeah.
Or if you ask them that and then they're like, I didn't think I was going to spend any money today, I'd have to talk to myself.
So, I mean, what I would say to them is, so typically, if they're saying that, they're not saying that. Those are two different objections, right? Like, they wouldn't be saying, yeah, it's more than I felt comfortable spending. They would say, I wouldn't feel comfortable spending that type of money before speaking to my husband.
And then reinforce the 5-pay and the 15-day trial at that point.
And also the personal guarantee.
Right.
Okay.
Do you care if I like role play like as a customer objections, like the ones that we talked about with questions?
Yeah, anything.
Is that cool? Honestly, Owen, I'm not really sure.
So, I mean,
Like, can we do? Or if you don't want to do that, we don't have to do that.
I mean, like, my question for that would be, okay, awesome. Just so I know, like, what is it that you're unsure
No, and
of?
I know these. I just feel like this would be beneficial for like the video. All right. I don't know. I just feel like it's honestly more pieces than I was looking to invest in.
So, my question to that would be, all right, so just so I know, when you say that, are you saying that, see, I feel like these aren't things that I would get very often, but what I would say to that is I would say, just so I know when you say that, are you saying that you don't think that you would use all the pieces in this set? Or is it that you have a set that you still have a couple pieces that are still like somewhat usable?
Yeah, like I have like 3 pieces that I use all the time. Everything else I would definitely implement into my kitchen, but honestly, I feel like those 3 pieces work, and I don't understand why I'd have to replace those if they're working fine, like the way they are.
Cool. And basically so do you want me to handle the objection or just explain to you my thought behind how I would answer it?
Yeah, that's probably fine.
I think that's probably, so what I would say is I'd be like, hey, look, I totally understand that, and you could get nothing, and you already helped me out by sitting down with me.
Right.
But I don't think it'd be fair if I didn't tell you the one thing that I know. The one thing that I know is when you get Cutco, you are not going to use your other pieces, right? And one thing about Cutco is forever, right? So if you're going to buy half the set, you're going to use just those pieces, and you're going to want to upgrade at some point, or you're going to replace your pieces with pieces that need to be replaced over and over, and it's going to be that cycle, right? So it's never a good time to go out and spend the money. I saw a lot of people that I know at first, they were questioning if they want to spend the money. But what I found is none of them questioned it after they had it for like 10 or 15 years, right? So if you're going to go out and you're going to invest in a couple of pieces, you're either going to beat them up, and you need to get them sharpened. You're either going to go out and get the rest of the set, or you're going to replace your stuff with pieces that you're going to need to replace over and over again. But when you do upgrade, one thing that I know is consistent with prices is that they only go what? Up, right? So you're going to spend more money. You're not going to get the deal on the set. You're going to even probably spend more today than if you were to just try the set on the 5-pay. So like I said, you could get nothing and you already helped me out. But if you could see yourself using all of the pieces, I would totally suggest just trying the set for a couple weeks. If there was even one piece you didn't love, I would pick it up and I would send it back for you.
Right. Okay. The only thing, and this is like another thing I would ask if you think like I should add this, is a lot of times you would say about the turning fork that, listen, that piece pretty much like pays for itself.
I don't understand how so many reps get like these objections with the I guess that's because they're going through every single piece.
Yeah. No. So anyway, I'm not even talking about that. I'm saying like since would you say in that situation, since it's only like a couple pieces and the set's discounted 20%, like those pieces pretty much pay for themselves?
Yeah.
And then just say everything you said after.
But you also, I don't know if you remember this, but you verbatim said, "Oh no, like I can totally see myself using these. I just feel like I have the pieces that are good for now."
Right. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
the reality is, like when you're investing in Cutco, you're not thinking about what's good for now. You're thinking about like what you're gonna use forever.
Down the road, right?
You know what I mean? Like Cutco isn't like a purchase that you know for like anything. It is that investment. It's something you're literally going to have forever.
Awesome.
Okay, so you end the knives, and then how do you transition into cookware, flatware,
So
kitchens?
that's a good question. So so I didn't add it, but I would typically add it on the company page. I would add like, by the way, like most people know us for our knives, which are our most popular stuff. Well, we actually have flatware and kitchen tools, our cookware. We have incredible tools and gadgets. So a lot of the people that I sit down with actually end up like getting a Cutco kitchen either up front or over time. So I'll show you what that would look like, right? And my mentality was I'm gonna close on the set. If they got stainless table knives, then it's super easy to transition to a flatware chest. And it was just, okay, cool, now that we got your knives out of the way, like, just, like, since you're getting this, if you were to get the flatware chest, this is the deal that we could do. It just makes sense. You know what I mean? It's like $800, $700 more, and they would have the entire flatware chest, plus the signature set, which is what, like an extra like $140 on the 5K a month, and they would never need either to replace either of those. And then it's like, cool, so now that we got knives and flatware out of the way, let me show you our cookware.
Yeah. Is that where you would break out the like the paper, and you would separate the columns, like what you would pay today, what it would be, what you save?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would say. Go
You
ahead.
did the cable analysis? I don't see that. Is that in here?
No.
No. Everything's on the video, and he said that a bunch of times.
You just do that right before the close, right? Just to explain the 5K.
That's how I explain the 5K, yeah. Because you obviously you could do any like type of analogy, but my goal was for them to understand really you're not thinking that heavily about how much you spend on a cable or cell phone bill. This is like an extra cable or cell phone bill for 5 months, and then you never buy knives again. And my goal was to get them on the 5K and to understand like it's like just charge the debit or credit card 1/5 for 5 months. Like I didn't want my customers paying for it in full.
So is it a problem that you're saying that it's about the same as a cable or grocery bill before you get to the prices? Because you're basically telling them the price, like on a 5K. You're
But I didn't say it's the same thing. I just said that I compared it to that. And
Is that a bad thing to drop, like, if you put it on the 5K, you're going to be running the next grocery bill for 5 months.
But that's not what I said there.
I don't think
I
he
didn't
says
say
that
that.
before he gets into pricing.
I didn't say that once.
Yeah.
I just explained to them
Yeah.
the way that the 5K worked. I didn't say anything about
Because that just part was just a little confusing.
What exactly are you
Because you're comparing
referring
something
to?
that you pay for like ever, something you're paying for like 5 months.
why I explained that if you had to pay for cable all at once, you wouldn't have cable. Like it's an investment, but since it's broken up, it makes it way easier, right?
Okay.
And then I explained that Cutco's an investment, and that the reason we have the 5K is because chances are people don't have thousands of dollars laying around. So one thing we have is this thing called a 5K, where it just charges a debit or credit card 1/5 for 5 months. It makes it way more manageable. It's not finance or credit based. Right, so I don't say anything like it's the same price as this. I'm just saying it is an investment, but if there are other things that you spend money on a monthly basis that if you had to pay for them all at once, you're actually spending a ton more money on those things. Does that make sense?
Yeah. What was I gonna say? Yeah. So I asked this to V, and I just wanted to see what your opinion was, since this is a higher level demo. I feel like we should be mentioning the carbon copy in the recommendation approach.
I don't agree.
You don't agree.
I don't.
Because we talked about this before. Well, I thought we did. That the best time. We have talked about this.
I agree with that, but I also feel like they're personally. I think that if you do enough, if you notice, by the time I get to it, like early in my demo, I talk about referrals like 3 or 4 times.
Right.
Right. So, and to me, I got that objection, but I didn't get it. I got it 1 out of 8 maybe.
Right.
And I just didn't. I don't think you need to do it. Like they see that it's a carbon copy. So personally, no. But I understand your thinking behind it, and
Yeah.
I think that
I'm also thinking, is there a slight chance that mentioning it could get them skeptical about it slightly?
well, that's what I'm saying.
No, I
is
think that's what we're both thinking.
I would say that there's certain people that don't want to tell their friends,
Right.
And that
They prefer not to.
And like the people that gave me a lot, if they knew that they had to reach out to all of those people,
They
or
would.
that I expected them, then they weren't going to give me as many people.
Right.
So I would rather, and there were certain times where I was like, I was like, went into the heads up approach, and they were like, oh, I really don't want to do that.
Yeah.
Right? Where I almost feel like it's a double-edged sword, where I would rather handle that on a situational basis than to potentially them not give me people because they didn't want to reach out to those people first.
That's honestly like a really good point. I didn't think about that.
Wait, so what's the carbon copy?
So every rec
For
form
referrals.
that Owen has, when they write the recommendations down, they
It's on the carbon copy.
yeah, they have a copy of it. This way they can reach out
Yeah.
and to tell their friends about it and stuff. But like what Owen is, what I was saying to Owen before was, I feel like some people won't give you some because they're worried like they won't have like a copy of it and who they referred, which is why I was thinking we should mention the carbon copy. But what Owen is pretty much trying to say is there's some people that if they refer a lot of people, they're not going to want to reach out to 50 people.
Yeah.
And you'd much rather them give you 50 names and not reach out than give you no one. Because, you know what I mean?
Or 10.
Or, like,
and,
less,
and
yeah.
like personally, I do think that a good heads up is great, but there were there are tons of people I didn't book with, like, that never got a heads up.
No, that's a really good reason for it. I didn't know that was the thought process.
That was, yeah, I just didn't want to like get into it at that time.
That's fine.
But yeah, my mentality is there's more people that just give me referrals without needing that.
Yeah. So really, the if you want to improve, just talk about it more, like throughout the demo, because you said you mentioned it like 3 times.
Well, if you think about it, I talked about every demo gets me closer. I get better. I get referrals. Blah blah blah. My number 1 goal is for you to just be comfortable and confident. Where you want me to sit down with all your friends. Talked about 19 million refer customers. We're not allowed to go door to door or cold call because we're part of the Better Business Bureau. We just work off a referral basis. And then I talked about my 3rd promise was at the end I'm asking for anyone that you know that might be nice enough to sit down with me. Blah blah blah. Right. So I brought it up 4 times so that when I get to it, it's expected, and I built rapport and value in myself and what I was working towards, so that when I get to the end, if that one person, like I would say literally maybe 1 out of 8, 1 out of 10 will say,
Yeah.
I want to talk to them first. And then it's like, cool, yeah, of course I want you to talk to them first. That's, you know what I mean? And then it's handled.
Yeah, and hopefully they like you enough where you just comfortably handle that objection after, and it's not a big deal at all.
Exactly. So
I like that.
I'm like, my mentality was, yeah, I wanted to handle objections first, but I also never wanted to give an objection.
No, honestly, dude, you kind of reversed my like thinking on that. I agree. So
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because so like V's mentality is he doesn't want as many referrals,
he wants high quality, like 10 high quality referrals.
and my mentality was I wanted a ton of referrals.
Yeah, because can't you just ask at the end, like, hey, if you were me, who would you see first?
That's what I did. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I had them starred.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, I was like, who are the people that like I need to make sure I do a great job on the phone with? Like, who are the game changers?
Right.
And they would star them. So that was my mentality, and that's why like V's good with referrals, but I felt like I got a lot more referrals than he did.
Yeah. Cool.
What other questions, thoughts, things, comments?
Okay. So how would you? Is the gift sets just something you're doing afterwards? You know what I mean? Like, what's the transition into the gift sets? Or is it honestly at that point like just make sure you tell them why they'd want to buy a gift and then the 3-for-1
So
special?
one thing, that I definitely, and the same with V and a lot of high level reps, is could have definitely done a better job at. Is like there were certain times where I sold them a signature and a flower chest, and I'd ask for referrals. You know what I mean? I didn't show them gift sets and stuff. One thing that I wish I did a better job of as a rep was that next day sending them a thank you text and doing email marketing and following back up with my customers every 6 to whatever months and like creating longevity.
Right.
Or showing on every one. Right? But I'm not gonna lie to you, I didn't always do that.
Yeah.
Like there were a lot of times where I had a $3,000 order and I was like, cool.
You were just content with a big ass order, and you're like, yeah.
And
I get that.
and I also and like this is like V too is like I space my demos an hour, so it's like
I feel like that's better though, because there's zero bullshit. It's just literally everything they need to know. Not that the manual has bullshit, but like kind of
everything in the manual is so like I don't think that you need disadvantages if you understand the disadvantages, but to me you need to be able to. So like the majority of the stuff from disadvantages I explain at some other point in the demo, right? Like comparing the two edges to me is very important. Or like the reason that I went back from my demo that I was teaching reps is because if you notice the pieces that I teach, that I show, not one of those pieces are in any set smaller than a homemaker, right? Or I guess just a spatula. So reps were terrible at dropping down. Right? Like, they're like, okay, so I haven't shown you any of the pieces in any of these smaller sets, and I'm not a good rep, so I'm not going to sell you on any value. So you're either going to buy a homemaker or you're going to buy a couple pieces or whatever, or nothing, right? And also, what happens sometimes when people transition to getting better at showing the larger sets is they become all or nothing because their customers, like they build so much value in the sets that if their customers can't do that set today, then they're like, oh, I want that set, right? Which to me comes down to like builder like sets, making sure they get a couple pieces, like explaining them they can upgrade in the future, like getting something at that moment. You know what I mean? But that's the real thing is like if you really think about it, I did a power open, which the reason for that is I wanted to burst that like price bubble and create more price expectancy throughout my presentation. I wanted to get like talking about thousands of dollars. I wanted that as far away from actually introducing our prices as possible, if that makes sense, right?
Yeah. How updated are all your prices?
These are updated prices, I think.
Cool.
There's a couple things that, like reading through it, I definitely would change, but not like that much. And it didn't have the cable analogy, and yeah. So like, but if you really think about it, the majority of what I went through is just like it's the same as the manual. Like there's just it's just like maybe a little less wording.
Yeah. It's just very to the point, and that's what I always told you about V's demo and why I love it. Is less is more, and he's just very good at telling you exactly what you need to know.
Yeah.
So when you give the wife to the trimmer, you're saying the wife and the husband, what do you give to the husband?
A Hardy slicer, I think.
And then when you're handing them the Hardy slicer, especially for the rope, do you point out the weight before you hand it them? So like you don't talk about like it's kind of like building the value in it by I don't remember. I think you told me this. I'm not sure if you told me it. But like handing it to them, be like, yeah, this is actually heavier because it's for heavier stuff. So it's really good for that. And then instead of them like grabbing it and saying, like, oh, it's heavy, so it's a bad thing, they're saying it's heavy because it's a good thing.
I'm actually gonna find that part in this demo.
So what's your like specialty? Your go-to meal, like the meal. If you're trying to impress.
I'm waiting for her to get a cutting board, so I'm small talking.
Whenever you invite it over, whenever you're talking about, yeah, that's perfect. So I know how much rope you guys cut up in your kitchen. We use rope because it's tough and fibers like a meter, a vegetable, but it doesn't go on knife. And what I want you to do is everything is very raw. I believe in it. I do.
These jacks are fun. That's his. I swear to that.
He was going in.
You're being a strong guy, right?
Who's Jack?
Oh, you might not know.
Cool. So, this is my favorite dining system.
See, yeah, no.
You fell in love.
See, did you hear what he said when I handed it to him? Though? I said, "This is my favorite knife."
So, this is my favorite dining system.
Whoa.
You fell in love. So, if you notice, it comes a little different there, right? A little bit. A little bit. And we don't know where this is 17 years old.
So, yeah, no, I just handed it. Okay. But, and that demo, honestly, I should have done. I should have sold a flatware chest. I sold them a signature with half steak and half stainless steel ones. But I prejudged them. I did, yeah.
Yeah, we've all been there.
Alright, there you go.
No. And then did you memorize your demo or did you have this out?
I typed this out like 2 years after. I memorized my demo.
Okay.
I didn't have like a price sheet like this.
Yeah.
What I had were I had order forms that I flipped over, and I would write it on the back. So like I would write complete, signature, basic, paid in full, or 5 pay in, like underline pay in full, 5 pay in full, and then I would write the price for if they picked stainless. I would write the stainless price, paid in full, and 5 pay. They didn't even know that there was a different price. If that makes sense.
Did you have written in here? I'm sorry, Austin.
Go for it.
Okay. Did you have written in here the part about the shears with the leather? Because I thought that was awesome. It's just another reason why they'd want to get the shears.
I didn't write anything for the shears other than show shears because I didn't have it in there.
Because I thought that was a good thing to add. That you take out a piece of leather and then you cut it on the demo.
You don't do that? Okay, so that's something you're the one doing the sample kits. I usually teach that when I do the sample kits. These guys, we're going to give you a big piece of leather.
Yeah.
Cut into a smaller piece in front of your customer so it shows more utility in the leather.
Yeah. I still never transitioned to like a kit or a roll up. Every demo I've ever done was with that, like, and my bag is a piece of shit. So I finally transitioned. I just put all my knives in like a roll up.
You had it the whole time that you didn't?
Yeah.
That doesn't make any sense.
I know.
Dude, I remember when Victoria got hers. She's like, she sends me a picture. She's like, "Is this right?" And all the handles were in the sheath thing. She took the cardboard out, so the knives were sticking out. It was literally a death trap. I was like, I sent it to Win, and Win was like, "I can't believe that's my cousin." It was like she took the cardboard things that you're supposed to put the blades in out so that she could stick the handles in, and there were no sheaths. It was the most dangerous thing that's anyone's ever like had.
Sounds scary. Someone came to my house with that.
They're like, well, dude, there's no way that would even go in her bag without cutting through and stabbing someone. It was terrifying.
Yeah, getting stabbed isn't fun.
Yeah. Any other thoughts, questions, comments, anything?
I'm gonna try out tomorrow. Got 3 demos.
Yeah, but your blue book's not set up for it, is it?
No.
Oh, I have the power open pretty bad.
You have them in your
That's all
blue
you
book?
need. The 3 trifold, yeah, I have those.
Okay, so
You've
done it a couple
you've
times.
already done it. I actually was field training with you when you did
But
it.
I want to read through it before I go because
Yeah.
honestly, I feel
I
like
agree.
I'm so keen to the manual. I don't know if I use that word right. But like a lot of the stuff that we're covering here is like a page in the manual. So if I can kind of just do the build report.
I mean,
and then
I have a
power open
recording.
that, and then just
I have a
figure out what
recording
things-
of the first 10 minutes of one of my
What?
demos. Unfortunately, that's when
And then
Glenn
explain all
stopped
the
recording.
specialty pieces. Which I can do because I've already done that.
Yeah, dude, I was there when you did the first time ever. You told her like, "Hey, I'm gonna read from the manual. Is that okay?"
Yeah, and there's so many spelling errors in this thing.
Yeah,
It's pretty bad.
it definitely was
read it through
choppy.
before you go on demo.
That lady was a sweetheart. I think she bought a homemaker from you.
No, she didn't.
Yes, she did. She bought a ton of shit. It
Bunch
was
of stuff, yeah.
it wasn't like a
She
homemaker,
got, like,
but
a fisherman
she pretty much
solution.
bought a homemaker's worth of
She
shit.
got like 7 guys and stuff.
Yeah. And that house was sick.
Yeah. you
We
guys
pulled
thought-
up and we were like, yo.
And then
All right.
Oh, I'm
there's
good.
definitely a lot of gems around